According to Sun Tzu, the man behind the art of war, he categorically contemplates that victorious warriors win first and then go to a war. And I will want you to underline the words victorious warriors win first, then go to the war, while defeated warriors go to the war first, then seek to win. And in this episode, let me decipher why Sun Tzu statement is categorically correlating with what President William Samoei Ruto and the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga are currently doing. Now, President William Samoei Ruto, being a political master court poet and a schemer, he is going to the next general election as a prepared man. And in Sun Tzu's words, he categorically contemplates win first, then go to a war. So by President William Samoei Ruto bringing on board the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga next to him, he automatically was halfway technically winning the war in the next general election against millions of Kenyans right before even the war began. And why am I saying so? It is due to the simple reason that by President William Samoei Ruto allowing the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga to come on board into his government, he was very categorically in need of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, not specifically for purposes of votes, but rather he needed the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for purposes of legitimacy. And speaking of matters legitimacy, that's why he had to extend a hand by going overboard to an extent of poaching all the key Uhuru's point men and deciding to infiltrate them also into his government. And that clearly proves to me that having the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and also having a person like the former president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, even if he is beaten hands down in the next general election, if he will have successfully succeeded in realigning all these big political bigwigs in his side, I kid you not, the kind of legitimacy they are going to legitimize his win, then it shall be next to impossible to call him illegitimate. However, from where he sits, President William Samoei Ruto is already strategically prepared to face any of his opponents come 2027 than his opponents seem prepared to face him in the next general election. Listen to this, my fellow Kenyan. Gachagua and his team, in as much as they are also in the process of preparation so that they can tackle President William Samoei Ruto in the ballot come 2027, they are, however, emotionally ready to work with anyone as long as they share a common goal of unseating President William Samoei Ruto. They should, however, be reminded that making decisions based on emotions has always been a clear recipe for disaster. Though this shall be because in the art of war, it is always next to impossible to win by fighting alone. And that, if it is something I'm also to consider, they could as well be silently countering on President William Samoei Ruto's strategies. And when push comes to shove, they are likely to emerge the victors. However, the former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, may seem and has always seemed to be a fool, but one thing I know is that the guy is very much far from being one, because you also know for a fact that a cornered animal is usually very dangerous and more lethal than it ought to be. And in this context, the former deputy president, this is a man on a revenge mission and ready to utilize each and every resource under his jurisdiction just to pin President William Samoei Ruto down. And as history dictates, historically, kings fall. And in this context, President William Samoei Ruto should pull down his ego, because he currently, being at the helm of power, he is more of like a king. And his downfall, being imminent, puts him not an exception to the other fallen kings. But with all this at hand, I'll just like to wish that if at all, and I've always been repeating this, if at all the former deputy president and his camp are going to unseat President William Samoei Ruto in the next general election, then they must begin preparing as early as yesterday. But they sitting pretty, thinking that they're going to counter President William Samoei Ruto on the D-Day of the election, I kid you not, it is likely next to impossible. And from where I sit, I'd personally wish that I allow time vindicate my word. And as I come to the penultimate part of this episode, that has just been my opinion. If by any chance you do have a contrary opinion to mine, you can as well. Just feel free to drop them in the comment section and I'll give them a right of reply. And by any chance, if you have been watching my videos and you have not subscribed, you can as well. Just consider hitting on the subscribe button. Thank you and may God bless you.